Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the BNI Partners In Excellence podcast. I'm Andy, and today I have Tim Foster with us from Coterie Handyman Services. Tim, welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
So, as you can see, I'm wearing all the stuff I have. This comes from Andy's My First Toolbox kit. As you can see, not all these are professional tools, except maybe he did compliment my hammer.
Yeah, it is nice.
Like the hammer is nice, but you also said it's very clean.
It is very clean.
Yeah, it's only been used once.
It doesn't look good.
Are you sure? Are you sure you even used it once? This actually was used to help build the framing that's in all these windows around the studio. In the windows. I just got it for Christmas because guess what? The other one, Tim, I broke.
Oh.
No, it was a wood handle one, Tim. But the problem, Tim, is it broke. I was, So, anyways, okay, enough with this.
Handle that
I brought my gloves. I got some pliers here.
Safety first.
I'm hoping that you'll keep it level today.
Yeah.
So,
here we
yeah,
go.
No and we'll
pun
have
intended.
a measured conversation. I'm gonna make sure we're the same right distance apart.
6 feet, 3 feet.
Yeah. Now, I don't know. Do you wear safety glasses or no?
Just these.
Just those?
They're,
I wasn't going to say, man, those are huge, but those are huge, Tim.
They do it all.
Yeah.
They help me see and
you can see and
keep
protect
me from being blinded.
Oh, man. I better get it together, man. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep going down this terrible path of Mark Johnson dad jokes. Shout out to Mark Johnson for bringing the lame. Thanks, Mark. You're doing great. So, Tim, most people know this already, but you are a huge Dodgers fan. We're going to talk about that today, but before we do, I just want to make sure you see my Slam Diego shirt.
I should have brought my replica ring I have.
Yeah.
It's the replica of the 2020.
Yeah, but I already say I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get owned by you because, the Dodgers are champs and the Padres are not. I'll admit that. Slam Diego was basically a little window of time. It is not synonymous with the Padres teams of forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I realize the position I'm sitting in by taunting you wearing this Slam Diego
I'll be honest with you. I told everybody that called me the night that you guys beat us and the town almost burned down. And I told everybody, I said, look, you better go all the way because you may not get back to this point ever again.
Yeah.
And it's so tough. I mean, NFL repeat 3 times. They couldn't do it last night. It's like there's so many things about it that you just have to.
Yeah.
You got to finish all the way through, and then now your team's pretty much
dismantled and in pieces once again.
I feel bad. I do. I really do.
Yeah, I don't think you do. I think you just say that because you're being decent.
My dad's in heaven right now, watching down, and he was a Padres fan from the time they started. I mean, he knew them. He watched their games in '69 when they were downtown.
Oh my gosh!
And he was. We always talk about, like, anytime I introduce somebody or I talk to somebody about something, I say, "Yeah, my dad and I really got along." But there was just one thing, and everybody's like, "Ooh, what could it be?" Did Tim stab somebody when he was 12? No. Did he break something? No. It was just that he was a Padres fan, and I was a Dodger fan.
Wow.
But I grew up in L.A. At the time when, you were impacted by things. Like, first game was Dodger Stadium, first hot dog was a Dodger dog. And I was 6, and so my dad lived in L.A. going to college. And so when we moved back here, it was just Steve Garvey, Ron Say, Davey Lopes, Bill Russell, Steve Yeager.
Oh, man, all those names.
Yeah, that was my team.
But hold on, though. To the Dodgers, Steve Garvey isn't a traitor, even though he did Dodgers and
when he hit
Padres.
That home run, I loved it.
But so many times, maybe it's just nowadays in sports, like, you immediately become like the villain when you leave the team and you go to like your rival or someone else in your same division. But Steve Garvey didn't get that treatment. He was loved by so many people.
And it's weird, even now, like Bellinger comes back or somebody comes back, and the first at bat they're cheering and and then by the third inning they're booing him.
And I don't know. I think some of that's just because it's different nowadays than it used to be. I mean, look at Machado, right?
Yeah,
like he hated by the Padres until the Padres got him,
exactly.
And then they're like, oh, now the Dodgers hate him.
And we have Blake Snell, and I hate that guy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Tim, I want to get to all that. How did you become a Dodgers fan stuff? But can we go back and let's start talking about like your company first. So you're in BNI Partners In Excellence for your handyman services, which I want you to be able to tell the story of because I know it. Some people don't know it all. I know it has to do with Don Van Gundy, of course, who is beloved by all of us. Yeah. So take us back to like how did you end up getting in Partners in Excellence, and what's your connection?
Yeah, so I knew Don for quite a while, probably 15 years or so. And this is a situation where you be nice to somebody and then they're really nice to you. because I always liked Don. I mean, he worked for me for a while. He went off and did his own thing, bought himself a Honda Odyssey van and shoved all his crap in there and went and did all kinds of jobs and stuff. And I talked to him quite a bit. Usually it was because he wanted to bring some trash because we had dumpsters at the time. And so he'd be like, hey, can I bring, and then people wouldn't run out and go, who's that guy dumping mattresses in there? So I kept up with him and I was always nice to him. And then so I had taken some time off. I was off for about a year or so. And I was getting ready to kind of get back into work again, and because I had some issues and I was on disability for a year. And then I was sitting down on my bricks on the front porch, and I thought, you know what, I need to talk to Don, see if he's got anything on the side. And somebody had told me, Mike Meeks had told me 2 years ago, you got to talk to Dan Van Gundy. He's really busy and he's doing really well. Well, I didn't listen to Mike. Nobody listens to Mike. And so,
sorry, Mike.
So yeah, so I knew him and I sat down and I thought, I'm going to text him. And I mean, I hit send and my phone started ringing and it was Don. And he goes, man, I am glad you called. And I was like, really, what's going on? He goes, I just moved to Oregon and I'm sitting in an empty house waiting for $17,000 worth of furniture and goods to come to the house. He just went into a store and said, I need a refrigerator. I need stuff. So he's sitting there waiting and then you could hear the echo of the empty house. And he said, man, people are just driving me nuts. They're calling me every day. Don, would you please just come down to San Diego and fix this? And who's going to do my thing when you're gone and this and that? And so I said, well, Don, I've got a bunch of tools. I don't really have like a truck like he did. And he sold that Honda Odyssey. He said, if I'd have known, I'd have given it to you. So I used my mom's Ford Taurus. That was my dad's little car, 120,000 miles or so on it. And basically he just said, here, you can have them. And so he gave my number to a few people, and before I know it, I was doing at least 3 jobs a week.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just was, like I said, it was one of those things where if I'd have been a jerk to him years ago and said, he would never have even thought of me.
Right.
But I knew him well enough, and I thought, I'm just going to call him, see if he needs somebody to help him paint or drywall or whatever. And then he's like, no, here, call this lady right now. She needs a faucet put in her kitchen, and she needs it today. And I went over there, got under the sink and did it, and she paid me.
Well, I love this story for a lot of different reasons. One of the verticals in this is, of course, your friendship outside of BNI, first of all. The second thing is that you can probably imagine that not every, let's say, replacement is a fit, right? So, you and Don having known each other a long time, you having the capability to take over the work that he is vacating by moving to Oregon leaves, could have left a big vacancy in our chapter, which people had become to know and trust on, send him plenty of business as you we're well aware. But then for that replacement person who's now you, replacement isn't even really a thing in BNI. It's like the seat's open. So anyone who can come in and wants to apply can apply, and they'll get vetted and they're going to get in or not. And so for it to be you, number one, and number two, for you guys to have the relationship, and for then you to right away, kind of take the baton and run with it has been tremendous. Because so many people in the room had become reliant on Don's expertise, his experience, and his handiness to just come fix stuff for themselves, and then for all their friends, family, and referrals. So I'm so happy that you are around. Yeah. Now I have a list of things I need you to fix in my house. Exactly. We'll get to that list here. Hold on, let me get to the bottom of it.
They all have my number. Yeah.
I do have a list of things I just don't like fixing, and I got to tell you, just this is my own personal thing. I hate trying to repair screens. Can I just tell you, I hate screens. Is that okay? Is that fair to say?
Okay, yes.
Do you like screens?
I can do them. You got to get the right the twine, the line that goes in there, and heavy enough material.
I can't do it right.
It's not
I
fun.
can't do it right. I've tried.
I did our back door.
I broke a screen trying to fix the one that it wasn't hanging on by a thread. It was durable enough to be rescreened, right?
Yeah.
So I got the material, I got the tool, got the rubber stuff. I can't do it, dude.
Yeah.
It looked terrible. I bent the frame. Well, I was like, you know what? Screw this.
What's funny with this stuff is my wife will say to me, Tammy, she'll say, how come they're paying you to put up a ceiling fan? Why are they calling you to put in a new faucet? I said, Tammy, not everybody has a Tim faucet.
Has Tim at home.
In their home.
Right.
I redid my mom's kitchen. We live with my mom. Redid my mom's kitchen, did some wood flooring, put in a tankless hot water heater. So I've done all this stuff. Toilets are never running, and so it's like, I said, Tammy, you don't realize you have that.
Yeah.
Here at the house, and I have the tools. I have the miter saw. I have this and that, and I can do it. She just gets a kick out of, they paid you $350 to do that?
Yes.
And I'm like, yes. And you know how much money I've saved you over years?
Yeah.
Millions.
Take that, extrapolate that for all of our time
32
together.
years of marriage. Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh.
Man, 32 now?
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. Congratulations. Yeah. Wow, she is so patient. I'm just kidding.
She is really bad.
No, everyone's patient with each other. I know how it goes.
Yeah, we met in 89. We married in 92.
Wow.
And had kids in 94.
Wow, that's amazing.
Got right at it.
So I want to talk more about it's kind of like a last thing about BNI because you have there's so many awesome stories I know I'm going to get out of you by talking today. So, you've been in BNI a shorter amount of time than most. What is something that has really helped you as far as like coming into a group like this and being, I'll say, new to your field, even though you've been doing the work forever, you're just like new to it in the business sense that people are professionally hiring you to like fix this stuff. Like,
yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is kind of the patience of people like allowing me to get into BNI, kind of rather than throwing me in the deep end and saying, okay, you got this and that. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't realize that those were CEUs and that cost this and this, So there's a lot of that. I was really happy that, plus the group is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, I walked in, and first person I saw was Mark Johnson. And I'm like, you go here? And then I saw,
was it Ramses?
John
Lloyd.
Yeah,
John
Lloyd. I saw all these people that I know from the past, and I'm like, okay, now I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And then the first time in, it was just very welcoming. And so I like the fact that nobody's like, you haven't reached your quota yet.
Yeah.
Well, I'm working on it. Oh, okay. That's great. We want to get you there. Well, whatever.
I know what you mean.
I just join, tell me.
We're going to institute a quota for Tim. Now that Tim thinks it's a quota, everybody, guess what? Bring the quota on.
Yeah, exactly.
So does anybody else in the chapter know about your, that you were cast for Lord of the Rings because of your beard?
I was.
Yeah.
No,
it's not true, you guys. It's just Tim's beard, though, right? I actually was trying to grow a beard before the episode.
Oh, really?
I started on Friday. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
I didn't get that far. Yeah. How long have you been growing that beard?
I started growing a beard probably in 2000. And so it's grown and I've trimmed it, but I don't think I could grow it down to the ground.
How long is it? What's the longest that your beard's
This growth probably takes me about a year.
But how long is it? Like, what was the longest you ever had?
Yeah, I've had it down pretty bad, yeah.
I guess I don't remember that.
You couldn't see my name tag, my name badge hanging around my neck.
Hey, that guy's name tag is on his front pocket of his pants. Like, it's because his beard's covering
Tim,
it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What made you start growing a beard?
Honestly, I went to a David Crowder concert.
Get out.
I did. John Mark McMullen was the opening act, and he had one, and Crowder had one.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there with my little goatee, and I'm thinking, man, I could do that. Because I've always had, like in college, I had them off and on. When I went into my first career that lasted 25 years, I got more respect from people because I wasn't just a kid. And so it kind of they thought I was 30 and I was 22, So it gave me that. So I always wanted to have one. And I always wanted, my dad, before he died, he was just white hair,
like Santa.
White beard. It was gorgeous. And I'm like, I can't wait to get I've already got this here, but I can't wait for it to just go white.
Yeah. Then we can have you come do Santa stuff too.
I can do
you
it.
Could be off the clock Santa.
Yeah.
I was, I guess I shouldn't, maybe I should say I was half expecting you to make a ZZ Top reference, only because I know we're both old enough to have like referenced ZZ Top when they were kind of like really well known and all that. But no, I don't, if you don't like them, that's fine. I just, I was like, there might be a ZZ Top reference here.
Yeah.
So let's talk about okay, you had mentioned growing up in LA, first baseball game, Dodgers, right, at Chavez Ravine, right? And first Dodger dog and all that. Is it because of the nostalgia part that you're just such a huge Dodgers fan, or do you just like it because you're like, hey, I'm just going to double down on loving this team?
Yeah, I mean, for me though, it is the nostalgia because the best story I have is when my dad was in college, he worked at Safeway. He was with Safeway for like 25 years. And he was the produce guy. In fact, the night that I was born, he was in the waiting room writing out his order for the produce department at the Safeway. And so he's, so Safeway was always a thing. And so back then, grocery stores closed at like 9. And then after that, they would stock for the next day and they'd open up at 8 and then they'd go till 9. So what we would do is my mom would take me in the car and I had my big wheel in the trunk and we'd go to Safeway. And while my dad at 9 o'clock, while my dad was stocking, I'd ride my big wheel around the Safeway. and they would play Vin Scully over the PA system. So I would hear the last 3 innings of the game over the PA system in a Safeway, and then I'd hear Vin Scully do the post-game show. And so it was just like that became kind of my soundtrack.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
What a cool experience.
Because it reminded me of my dad. Then there was a guy that used to give me a hard time. I called him the cardboard man because he always broke up the boxes and he threatened to throw me in the smasher. And this was 1971.
We have a workplace complaint. We have an employee threatening a young child to smash him in the cardboard smasher.
He's chasing him around on a big wheel.
Oh my God.
So that was, and then my mom would just sit in the car because we only had one car at college, and we were living in San Dimas up there at the time, and he had to go to 7-8 blocks down the street, and he'd ride a bike sometimes, but almost every night we'd go and pick him up, and then he'd come get in the car and we'd go home, and 10:30, 11 o'clock we'd go home and go to bed.
Is San Dimas famous for anything else other than Bill and Ted's?
Yeah, none of it was filmed there.
No, I know that part behind the scenes, but like, is San Dimas famous for anything else other than Bill and Ted's?
They have a real good steakhouse that's downstairs from a dance hall, and they do that cowboy dance stuff up there.
Line dancing?
Oh yeah,
cowboy stuff.
While you're eating a really good steak, they're just That's about. I mean, they did the trains. It's a big train depot because it was a big stop from LA as it headed east.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a really cool small town.
So you mentioned your dad was working when you were the night of you being born. You had shared an interesting birthday story with me that you share a birthday. You share a birthday with a very famous person.
Yeah, my wife says it's always the conversation starter. I could walk up to Jennifer Aniston and say, "We were born on the same day, February 11th, 1969."
When did you learn that?
I do IMDb all the time.
Oh, it's I love it. It's fascinating.
As soon as I turn on a show, I open it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Anna Gunn from Breaking Bad playing Jerry Seinfeld's girlfriend, and it just, so I look up things a lot, and usually it's like their birthdays are listed there. And so we were doing watching Friends.
Yeah.
We go through The Office like 8 times, and then we go through Friends like 8 times. And then we always start Parks and Rec, but we never get to the end.
Oh, Parks and Rec is okay.
Yeah. So we just I always said, if somebody called my daughter's house right now, there's a good chance that Friends is on in the background.
Oh my gosh.
And my house, it's The Office.
So I don't want to guess. I have an idea. I'll tell you if I was right or wrong. Who is your favorite character in The Office?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's got to be Steve Carell.
Oh, I was wrong.
But
I was gonna say Dwight Schrute. Well, I think Dwight's gonna be Tim's favorite character.
I actually like Moe's.
Oh, really?
His cousin. That guy's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's a writer for the show.
Yeah.
Put him in there. Yeah, I like the people that came in. Well, like when Ricky Gervais came in and walked out of the elevator.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm a big fan of the British Office too. So it's like, yeah.
So Friends, The Office, Jennifer Aniston. So you haven't got through Parks and Rec.
My wife says we have, but I don't remember towards the end.
If you have and it's not that memorable, then I think that says something. Yeah. Parks and Rec is hilarious.
Yeah. Favorite character is definitely going to be the guitar guy that
Andy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Chris Pratt playing Andy. He's hilarious.
I did not know that name.
Yeah. So what's the name of his band? Mouse Rat?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Well, it was
Mouse Rat, right?
But it was different things over time.
Right. And so I have to admit this. I can't believe I'm about to admit this. Like half the time when Michael Keith stands up to talk about rats, that's what I think about. I think about Mouse Rat and Parks and Rec. Michael Keith, I am so sorry that I'm distracted every time you're talking about rats in our meeting.
Yeah.
I apologize. But yeah, Mouse Rat and Andy and his anyways. So do you just cycle through those because they're
Netflix?
Obviously they're fun and they're entertaining. But
like we just had a grandson. My daughter had a baby. He's about 15 months old now, and so when he's over, it's something PBS, Daniel Tiger, or something else, and so that's in the background. And then as soon as he leaves, man, we're just like,
yeah.
What do you
like about being a grandpa?
Oh gosh, it's pretty cool. You got to get a grand.
You got to be. Hey, everybody, get a grandkid.
Exactly. They sell them at Walmart, and they're not too expensive.
So stupid.
No,
that might not be too far from the truth these days, but let's steer from that.
Yeah.
So talk about being a grandpa.
Like for me, it came at a good time. He was born in October. Well, right, he didn't make it to Halloween. He was born just before October of 2023. And that had been a really, really bad time for me. And so when I was going through things, I would always tell people, I got a grandson coming. And it just kind of gave me a better outlook, a better view of things. And when he was born, it was just like, I wasn't working, like I said. So my daughter went back to work. She had the maternity leave and all that stuff. And then when she went back to work, she went to a coffee shop down by the Star of India. And I would meet her there at 5:30 in the morning, 5 days a week. I'd grab Luca, put him in the car seat, and I'd drive him home. If he was still asleep, we'd go into bed and we'd lay there, and Tammy was getting ready for work and he'd lay down. And I mean, it was just like 5 or 6 days a week. And now they live about, I would say, like 300 yards from us.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like I can walk down there, put him in a stroller, and, you know, he's starting to walk. He talks a little bit, but he doesn't, you know, his big thing right now is to knock on a door and say, hello, and that's all he does. But no papa, no nana, no, you know, that kind of stuff. But the best part about it is just the joy and the, you know, it's so cool. It's so cool seeing your kid have a kid like I was when, you know, like my dad looked at me when I had a kid, so that kind of thing. So
did you get to spend time with your grandfather when you were growing up?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. So my grandfather on my dad's side was actually my great grandfather on my dad's side was a real estate guy down in Imperial Beach. And that's where we all lived. And he was a builder as well. So he built a ton of homes down there. And then my mom's side, they lived down about 5 blocks from the beach. My grandfather passed away in like 2018 and my grandmother passed away just a couple of years ago. And they were both 94.
Wow. What a long life.
Yeah, but I always tell people, I never saw my grandfather go to a regular job.
Wow.
He was retired when I was born. Civil service. So he didn't have to work. He would do odd jobs like kind of like handyman, stuff like I do, and that sort of thing. So we lived in Fresno for a little bit, and my mom and dad would fly down and they'd put me on a plane and I'd fly back later by myself. And I'd spend 3 or 4 weeks of the summer with him. And he was always tinkering. And I think that's where I get my tinkering from. You know, I like to fix antique clocks, you know, the pendulums and springs, and you wind them up and all that kind of stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. From like I have some that are like from 1880s.
Really?
And so, yeah, I have about 20 in my garage right now.
Oh my gosh.
And so he would teach me how to do that, work on bikes. He'd go get a bunch of bikes at the junkyard and we'd grease the wheels and put new pedals on and chain. And then we'd sell it out in the front yard, you know. And so I did a lot of that kind of stuff. He was very, always fixing his car, always cussing under his breath, that kind of stuff. But yeah,
it sounds like we share some things in common.
I do. Yeah, it's like I do handyman stuff like he did. I also cuss under my breath like he did. But yeah, my grandparents have an interesting story. I mean, he was in the Navy. She lived in Imperial Beach. There was a dance hall down the beach, and on what is now, I want to say what is now like not Palm, but kind of halfway between Palm and Coronado, was a trolley, horse-drawn trolley that went all the way to the beach, and there was a dance hall down there. So he'd get on the ferry at 32nd Street and ride the ferry down to the end of where that beer place is now in IB at the bottom of the bay.
Yep.
There was a dock.
Yeah.
And you got off and you rode a trolley down to the other trolley and you rode a trolley down. They met at this dance hall or a birthday party, and then they went to this dance hall, I guess, and they were married. They had to go to Yuma to get married because her dad wouldn't allow them to get married, and you didn't have to get permission in Yuma, so they rode the train to Yuma. She had
way.
Oh yeah, she has the receipt from the train.
Wow.
She has her original wedding dress and his uniform and all that. She was real nostalgic and a lot of like not archaeology, what's it? Family.
Like family history?
Yeah.
Like lineage and all that?
Yeah. So she was really into that. And so our family was in IB the whole time.
So when did you start? Okay, hold on. Now, I have all these things I want to unpack now. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay, so obviously you care. So we were talking about the clock thing. Like that's, I didn't know that you had that like as a side hobby.
Yeah.
How long you been doing that?
Probably started like around COVID. Kind of because we were inside, and we lived with my parents. We moved in with my mom and dad in 2017. My dad had dementia really bad. He died in 2019. The anniversary is coming up in a week or two. And then we just stayed in the house with my mom. Well, my dad had all these clocks. He was a nut. Clocks, radios, watches, all that kind of stuff. And so there was all these clocks, and I just go on like I do with anything else. I don't know how to do anything, but I can go on YouTube and find out.
Hold on. That is not even close to being fair for you to say you don't know how to do anything. Like you are somehow getting everything done like all the time.
It's
how is that true? And then you're saying that
it's when I find something that's a little bit out of my area, I go, yeah, I'll do that, and I'll charge, and then I'll run to YouTube and start looking at things.
No, I understand the subset, but it's the activity of you being curious to know how to fix things.
Yes.
I think is that common thread between that.
Yeah,
but,
and it was that thing of, oh, that causes that to do that. There's gears, there's springs that have tension, and then as the pendulum swings, the tension's released. And I have a clock from 1880 that you have to wind every day.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you actually
at the same time. Da-doom-psh. No.
Yeah. With two hands. You pull down. It's like a grandfather clock. It has a weight that's in the bottom, and you pull down the thing. You pull down this one. This one's for the time, and this one's for the chime.
My grandmother used to have a grandfather's clock. My dad's mother had a grandfather clock that you had to do that. Yeah. And as a kid, I didn't understand. I was like, "Oh, it's cool. You get to pull it, and it goes tick, 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 tick." And I didn't understand. I didn't understand. Now I know what that was, but I didn't realize how cool it was back then.
Yeah.
So okay, so your dad had all these, and then it piqued your interest like during shutdown, and you were like, "Hey, I want to learn how to fix these things."
Well, none of them were running; they were just hanging on the wall. Mm-hmm. He has mantle clocks. I can send you some pictures of it if you want to put them on.
Yeah, let's put them on the screen right here. We'll talk about them.
Then they were just all sitting around. But my dad would never go to an antique store and not buy something, whether it was a radio. He has a portable Victrola that you would put which was a travel type thing.
Yeah.
So you put it in your Model T or your Model A, whatever.
Yes.
And you open the lid, you put the record on, and you wind it up.
When
you get to the picnic area,
Oh,
you
how
got your
cool.
little date, and everything, and he's got some of the ones with the big horn, like the RCA dog.
Yeah, the original like boombox.
Yeah, it was literally. And my mom always tells a story that he tried to give it away one time, and she said, "I'll kill you if you get rid of that."
Oh wow,
that's
a threat you can probably take seriously.
Exactly. But yeah, a lot of radios, and so since he passed, we've thinned it all out, and we've spread it out between my brother and my sister, and so they have a bunch of stuff, and I have a bunch of stuff. But all I did was I just took it apart and put it back together. And then I learned.
That's easy for you to say. I just took it apart and then I put it back together.
Like, oiling and greasing and care like that to keep and then when I got them all running, it took me about 2 years to get them all running, but I got them all running and I started them in the garage, 21 or 2 of them, and I set them to 12 o'clock, and they all went off. And I'm not kidding. It was like 5 minutes of just because some were a little slower than others, and so it was just But I love the ticking of an old clock. It's really cool.
Yeah. I love that.
Like a white noise.
I remember going to my grandparents' place, and they had a clock. It was on my mom's side. So my dad's mom had the big standing grandfather clock. On my grandparents on my mom's side, they had the one on the wall. Mm-hmm. And if it was silent in the house and like we're reading or playing a game or something, you just hear it
all day.
And I'm like, oh man, it just reminds me of like that like season of my life. Yeah. Like I don't like think about it all the time, but if you were to say, hey, describe what it was like being at your grandparents' place, that would be one of the elements.
Yeah.
Sure. They on the joking side, I'm like, well, they came out of the Depression era. They washed their foil, they reused Ziploc bags. And my grandparents, they lived this extremely frugal life, even though they didn't need to.
Yeah.
And they saved everything, not in the hoarder sense. They're like, we're just going to reuse all the things we can reuse until we just can't reuse it anymore.
Yeah.
But I remember that clock.
Yeah.
And the ticking. I loved it.
Yeah.
I guess I still love it to this day.
Yeah. Some of the chimes are real soft and you can hear them. It's beautiful.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know we were going to make this pit stop today. This is what happens, man. We start these conversations and all of a sudden I'm somewhere with somebody. I'm like, wow, look at this.
I'm a boring person. I really am.
It doesn't sound
like
like
to do
it.
a lot of things.
So you're in your. We're already
people. Why does it impress
We're already 30 minutes into this, and you're like, "Oh, I'm a boring person." You probably didn't know 30 minutes has passed.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you probably think it's like
I was
5.
Get out of here.
Yeah, speaking of time. So we talked about being a grandfather, how awesome and special that is. We talked about your grandfather. I want to ask you, I just turned 46 recently, and I've kind of been on this kick where I'm thinking about like the second half of my life, and I'm like, I'm probably in it, right? Yeah. And I started wondering, like, what are the things I just have really come to know are true just because they're true, no matter whether it's raining or sun's shining or not, and just things I've learned from my parents, grandparents, and just life in general. What would you say is something that you hold on to that's it's just true because it's true. It's gonna be true till the day you die.
My faith is the main thing. My relationship with God. I grew up. My dad was a pastor, music pastor, in 1969 when I was born, and he was still a music pastor when he died in 2019. So he did it at a couple different churches and stuff. And I've had good experiences and I've had really, really bad experiences, but I always knew to hold on to that. My wife and I like to do national parks. So I had a sabbatical where I got a month, and we went. We didn't go for the whole month. We went for like 12 days. We started out in Vegas. We went up to Zion, to Bryce, down to the Grand Canyon, then over to Joshua Tree, and then home. And then we went to Yosemite the next summer. And those rocks that really spoke to me, because the rocks, I mean, my wife, my kids are just the rock for me as well. But my faith has always been something that, I still believe what I believe. It's still, it's still there.
Yeah. What are you motivated by these days? I mean, you've kind of, again, not really like changed careers, but you've kind of moved from your work and over on this side of your life now into this new where you're on your own. You're a business owner, and you're the one that is getting the calls and doing the work and then taking the payments, all of that. Like, what has changed for you in going from kind of one style of that work and then to this new one?
I like the consistency. I've only had, I'll be 56 tomorrow, and I've only had probably two major jobs, two major careers, and really at those places I was there a long time. I started out printing. I ran a press at the church, did the bulletins and all that kind of stuff. Eventually went into, paid for college, paid for my first car. And then we moved to Phoenix, and I worked for a guy that basically took a company from about 2,500 square feet to 75,000 square feet. Printing, commercial, large. I mean, we did Domino's door hangers. We did Discount Tire. They'll have to Google a dot matrix, but they used to do a dot matrix, and they had the boxes, and it was like this and this, and they'd come out of the box. We did all that. And it was huge. But I learned from that the consistency of the guy knew me a little bit. I was able to do a little bit of stuff, but because I was consistent, it was constantly here. Tim, do this. Tim, do that. He's passed, so you can't go back and get taxes, but he would walk up to us on a Friday and he'd say, man, good job. And he'd pull out an envelope and hand it to you. And you get home and you're like, oh, sheesh. This is like a whole wad. I mean, just to say thanks. If we worked on a Saturday, he'd say, hey, I'm bringing in steak sandwiches. That was always his thing. And so we'd work on Saturday. He'd bring in steak sandwiches, and he was making money like crazy because it was just, we were just booming.
Yeah.
And so that was the consistency. And then I went to my next career, which was kind of a maintenance repairs type thing with church. And it was just basically fix everything, try to save us money by fixing things, handle the vendors and all that kind of stuff. And I was there 15 years. I was in printing for probably 20, 25 years from like the time I was like 14 when I started. And it was just that consistency. It was, I'm a big kind of numbers guy with baseball. I'm like, that guy's hitting 320. That's pretty consistent for a baseball player. I mean, over 300 is really, really good. And so I always thought that I wanted that consistency, And so with this thing now, I have a little bit of freedom because like, I really don't want to go do that thing. So I can either bid it like 3 times what it should be. And if I get it, great. I made 3 times what it should be. If they say that's too much money, then I don't take it. And so I can make those decisions for myself, but I'm still consistent in everything.
That's awesome. What do you look forward to the most nowadays?
Getting back to the traveling. Now that my grandson's around, we want to take him places and stuff like that. It's just like, I don't know. It's so simple. of what, just looking forward to the sun coming up the next day. Jobs have not always been easy. Life has not always been easy. There's been a lot of bad times, but knowing that the sun's going to come up the next day, and I have my health, I have a home, I have a healthy wife, I have healthy kids, and I have a healthy grandson. So I look forward to a lot of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I know that, and most people may not know this, but I happen to have known you for a while. So I know that you are meticulous when it comes to lawn care. And I'm very surprised it hasn't come up yet. I didn't ask you a prompt question about it, but we're going to have to spend some time talking about lawn. You're like, hold on, everybody. Just hold on. Everybody,
I look forward to.
Everybody hold on. You're like, lawn? That sounds like paint drying, Andy. I promise Tim has a lot to say about lawn. When the heck did you start caring about lawn manicuring?
So my dad was so bad about it. He wouldn't let us play catch on the front grass in the same spot 2 days in a row. Because you know how it wears... we have Bermuda tiff.
So that's a real thing. This is a real thing.
Oh, yeah. My brother and I, we would play catch, and he would just, you guys are standing in that same spot. You can't stand there. And he would really get on us, and so we had to, because, you watch a baseball game, and you can tell where the right fielder, center fielder, left fielder is,
Yeah, you see the wear marks.
Yeah. And when we did that in his lawn, he did not like it. But growing up, there was kind of a contest, my lawn's better than yours a little bit. The guy next door to us was in the original SEAL team, tough as nails, but very, very nice. And so he taught my dad everything there was to when to aerate, when to fertilize, when to verticut, when to do whatever. And so my dad's lawn started getting better. Then the next door guy, and then 3 doors down was another guy, and his lawn was really good. Guy across the street, his lawn was really good. Down the street, there was a guy 3 or 4 houses down, and it was real. I mean, literally, like, I've had it look like a golf green. I mean,
I know.
It's been.
That's why I brought it up.
It's a lot of work, but it's.
That's why I brought it up. But
nice.
we meet at the golf course, and I will cautiously say this: they might need your help a little bit in some spots there.
I watch them through the windows. They have a machine that squeegees the greens off, and it's right outside of our window. But yeah, my dad. Like, he let me be involved with it. The one thing that we started was what's called dethatching or verticutting, which is where you have a flail and it spins and it tears up everything, and it just tears it up. And you take it all the way down to the dirt, and it looks horrible, but you fertilize it, and in 3 or 4 weeks it starts to green up, and then it's beautiful. You have to do that almost every year. So we'd all get out there with our rakes, and and it would be like 30 something bags of grass each house, and we would all like help each other out and do it. And it was, sprinkler heads, I don't use plastic, I use brass, because my dad would never allow plastic
my dad
heads.
did the same thing.
You can't get them anymore now.
Well, now you can't. I know, but so our first home growing up in Bonita off Briarwood, or off Robinwood Road in Briarwood, it was all brass. Like our whole yard was that way. Mm-hmm. I was too young to know why that was, but like I distinctly remember that.
Yeah, well, then you couldn't get them anymore now because they don't sell them. But my center row is all brass, and then the outside is now plastic.
How did you get them? Well, they've just been there for 50 years?
Yeah. What? You can see some of them where it's a circle,
mm-hmm.
and my dad would edge with an edger, a
mm-hmm.
real edger.
Yeah.
He'd walk it down. And
like an edger with a blade.
Yeah, with the motor and everything. And you could see the flatness of the one side where he hit it all the time. And that one's still in the corner. It's still there. I mean, probably 40, 50 years.
So, okay, so when you were a kid is when this all really kicked off.
Yeah, I didn't really like it as much because he yelled at us a lot because we were playing on it.
Yeah, it's like most things when you're a kid. Like, I didn't like
the beauty of it, yeah. So when I got my first house, we were living in Phoenix. I got myself a True Cut, and I got Bermuda lawn in my house, and I did it. Moved back here, and then it was always, hey, Tim, can you come help me with stuff? As he was getting older, and he had a heart attack and bypass surgery, and as he got older, then it was on me. And then when we moved into the house, his last few years, I wasn't able to help him much, and he wasn't able to do much because he would like start the mower and push the button on it, and it would go in the middle of the street.
Oh,
because he couldn't keep up with it and that kind of stuff. So he finally said, and they let it die down, but it's Bermuda. It comes back like you wouldn't believe. Yeah. It loves the sun. It loves the heat. It doesn't need a lot of water. It needs fertilizer. And by like right now, it's February. I'm probably the 1st of March, I'll start getting it in shape again because the growing season will start as soon as it gets up into the high 70s and 80s.
So how much time during the week in the spring, like how much time during the week you spend on your lawn, Tim?
I would say about 20 hours a week.
Get out of here. Are you for real?
Yeah.
20 hours a week?
Like most of the weekend.
No way.
Yeah. Because you have to mow it 2 or 3 times a week.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Short. Otherwise it burns the
But does that help it like
sprigs.
Does it help it be like stronger
It
or
does.
more,
I mean,
like,
it lets
what's
the
the
sun,
word?
the sun has to get to the roots. And once the sun gets to the roots, then that just goes nuts. It chokes out all the weeds. I have no weeds.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is like, well, is that a lot? How much of that's been weeding? Because every time I see you share a picture, obviously it's when you've like done your lawn. So I already know you've kind of done the work, but I don't always know what goes behind the pre-picture part.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's like, but right now it's dormant, so it's as gray and brown as this disc. It just doesn't. We don't water it at all. So from like say Halloween, it starts to go down as it gets cooler at night, and then right around Easter, it starts to pick up again once it gets hot. And it just but it's a lot of work.
So I'm going to ask you this question because there's possibly a parallel here that I'm going to bring up, and you can tell me if it's the same or not. A lot of people, including myself, I find cooking very therapeutic. And now I'm not OCD about my cooking. It's like actually like it's calming to me. Yeah. So is your grass thing because you're OCD about it, or is it because it's therapeutic and calming?
It's therapeutic and calming. I mean, I take care of other lawns, so when I say 20 hours a week, it's the whole thing because I do the neighbors.
I thought you were talking about just your own was 20 hours a week.
Oh, geez. I mean, my own probably like 15 or so.
Okay, well, well, might as well be 20 at that point.
The therapeutic, and my dad always mowed barefoot.
Do you do that too?
Yeah. Your feet in the grass blades, is
it that grounded? It's the grounding, isn't it? It's just being grounded and like being in touch with it.
And the lady next door, she's still living. It's her husband was the first Navy SEALs, and she used to yell at him and say, "Joe, get out there and you tell Rick to put his shoes on." And my dad wouldn't. I mean, we're behind it. I'm not really dangerous. I don't do something stupid. Yeah. But it's just like when you mow it, and then you go for the last trim, and you just take your shoes off and just.
You still have all your toes, right?
I still have all my toes.
Okay.
And I have about 5 lawnmowers.
You have 5? Okay. Yeah, how do you have 5 lawnmowers?
Well, so when you verticut and you take it down to the dirt, you need like 2 or 3. So I'm like, why not have 5?
Okay, you have to explain this to me. I don't understand why you need 2 or 3. They all perform different functions as part of that process?
No.
Okay, teach me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Because people will sell them and they don't know what they have. Like I've gone on Craigslist before, and I've gone to people's house and I bought a $350 lawnmower that I paid $350 for, but I guarantee you brand new, it's about $6,000.
What?
So I say, look, I'm going to give you like another $200 because you have a mower.
Because they don't know what they have.
It's used. It's probably been used at a golf course, or it's a 20-inch true cut 7-blade self motor. They're like rare and hard to find. So when I do find them, I get them. So then I have my neighbor's old ones. He had 2. So I have those 2 that I kind of get parts off of. And then I have 2 of my own that are true cuts. And then I have one that's called a Swardman. I got it from England. It's blue and it has a Dodger logo on it.
Oh, come on.
I'll show it to you. The front, the catcher where the grass goes in, it's metal. And my wife used her handy dandy maker thing to make me a big LA. So that's
like her cricket machine or something?
Yeah. So and then on the on the front, on the catcher it says Dodgers at an angle, and then on the side it has the LA.
Oh my gosh! Logo. So you customized your Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's a problem, and I still have edgers, and I weed whackers, and I have blowers, backpack blowers.
It doesn't sound like it's a problem. It sounds like you have a garage full of solutions.
Well, and that was the thing too. I was like, maybe I should just take my stuff and go around the neighborhood, and help people out, because they all come to me. They're like, oh, how do you do this? When I'm out there working on it or something, they'll say, hey, how do you do this?
Yeah, I mean, your lawn is beautiful, dude. I mean, let's not, we can't sit here and pretend like it's not like something to like look at and go, okay, that guy clearly knows what he's doing.
It's a thing. When you make the lines and it's fun.
So are you going to do this when you're retired? Are you going to try to get on the lawn staff at the baseball field?
Well, I applied for a job at Petco.
That's why I'm asking.
For the grounds crew.
I could legit see you carrying at that depth and level that you need for manicuring a pro field.
Some of those guys, they have degrees. They have masters in horticulture, so they know how to really do stuff. But I just wanted to be the guy that went out and swept the mound and stuff like that.
That's great.
But I don't know that they did this, but I think they went on my social media and saw.
I half expected you to say, I just want to be the guy who sweeps the Padres.
Yes.
Because, you can say that as a Dodgers fan.
Yeah, I know. It's
Guys,
I'm not that guy though. I'm not that rub it in guy.
I know.
I have so much ammunition.
I'm just admitting I don't have the upper hand in this whole Dodgers versus Padres part of our conversation. I do not have the upper hand.
Well, I like stats. I could talk to you about stats and stuff like that too. But
we could talk about how Tony Gwynn was one of the best hitters ever.
Ever.
It's amazing.
Ever.
Only second to Ted Williams, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and barely.
And
it's only because Tony Gwynn, he gave Ted Williams credit. Like, so, it's him kind of yielding his expertise to Ted Williams. But I mean, Tony Gwynn's just,
he was ridiculous,
crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, you were gonna say something. Sorry.
Oh, so my dad was a big sports nut growing up too, and he went to see Ted Williams play.
Oh wow.
Ted Williams went to Hoover High.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And my dad went to see him when my dad was younger. Saw him play high school because everybody knew then this guy's for real. And then he also saw Bill Walton play a lot at Helix.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that guy was just, in high school, he was just dominant.
Sure.
I mean, he was outrageous. And so he always tells me like, yeah, I saw these guys and these guys. And
it's so crazy.
And, you don't, it's not like social media now where I can watch a Michael Jordan game.
Right.
But I'm not there.
Yeah. No.
I'm not there.
Yeah.
To see it in person.
Yeah. So tell me about something. This is kind of be a little bit more serious question, but I want you to tell me something that you're hoping your kids take from you that would mean a lot to you as a dad. And then now as a grandfather, like what's something you want to see that maybe you've taught, showed them, or demonstrated that you hope that they really like grab onto and then they pursue in their own life?
So I would take it from a mistake standpoint, like to tell them. Now they see it in me, but they didn't see it in me for the longest time. Slow down. Like normally in a situation like this, I'm like, okay, I gotta go to Lowe's and buy a ladder because I gotta get. And I was always just first thing in the morning, no breakfast, no lunch, eat dinner. Next morning, breakfast, no lunch, big old thing of coffee. And I was forced to slow down in March of 2023. And my body just said, you know what, dude, we're just going to, and I spiraled and the whole mental thing. But just for them to slow down, like not see it as lazy or not as productive as you should be, but it's okay to just sit down. It's okay to spend your entire Saturday not doing anything. You know what I mean? And for so many years, I was always in that mode because my dad just, whoa. And he just, worked. But I would like everybody really to learn that it's take care of yourself. When it's time to eat lunch, eat lunch. It's going to be there when you finish lunch. People might be mad because it's still there and you didn't get it done, but who cares? That's totally opposite of what I was.
So tell me, that's very interesting because there's kind of a commonality in that when someone when people have like a major life event, or I have had a major life event myself too, where it completely changes my perspective on life. So because you've had this shift, why don't you share what are some of the advantages of slowing down?
You get to see more. For me, it's like I was so focused on getting that van and getting to that campus or getting to that thing that I didn't see anything. Walking through Lowe's, I didn't see anything because I had to get 12-tube MC cable and a bunch of breakers, and and there's a lady standing there asking the guy, how do I put this thing in my toilet? And and I'm thinking, oh, I should stop and say something. And now I just give her my business card, But before it was like, I don't have time. The lady breaks down and she's got a car on the side of the road and she's trying to fix a tire. I got to get to that place because I'm going to disappoint somebody. That was my big thing. And I didn't want to disappoint anybody. And so, and then I look back at it and it was kind of dumb because people would say to me, oh my gosh, you did so much more than we expected. And I'd be like, oh, well, I thought I did a pretty good job. No. And so slowing down has given me that perspective of, and also looking at other people and saying, hey, that's a pretty good job. You did a good job. Noticing the things like that. I would get mad that Casey wouldn't score 30 points in a basketball game in 7th grade. And now it's like,
sorry, Casey.
I look back and I'm like, yeah. I mean, he was head and shoulders over every kid. I had him playing at UCLA when he graduates, and but it was like learning to slow down and just let the things kind of just. And it's funny because everybody says that's San Diego. San Diego's very laid back, very casual. And it is, but I was going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have you been able to enjoy now, having kind of adopted more of that pace of life? What have you been able to start enjoying more?
My lawn looks great.
Your lawn. Well, hold on though. I can't sit here and say I envision you speeding through your lawn process, because I know that's not going to get the result you want.
And from like when the MLB Network started, probably like in 2007 or 8, I think it was. I've watched every Dodger game start to finish. Like at 7:00, I don't go to things. I sit down in my chair. My wife, Tammy, she sits next to me and she crochets, or she watches Law and Order on her iPad or something. And I just sit there and I watch. I've watched every game. Like
for 18 years.
Oh yeah.
Whoa.
We get the MLB package every year. And so I don't watch any spring training, but I watch from start to finish. I watch every game. I love it. I love the stats. I love just the emotion. To me, it's the best game that's ever invented. I know you played ball.
Yeah, I did.
I played high school, and to me, it's, you got to think. And so for me, that has helped me to relax more, because when I was watching it before, like 5-10 years ago, I was thinking of the next thing that I had to do. Now I just sit there and go, oh, that guy hit that ball a ton.
Yeah.
And I can relax. And so now that I've got that mindset, I'm able to see those kinds of things. We went to Zion, Bryce, and all that, and the old me would have pulled into Bryce or Zion and gone, okay, this is really cool. We got to get to this.
Yeah, we got here. Time. We're here. Check it off. Go to the next one.
Like the vacation, family vacation.
Yeah, Chevy Chase.
Yeah, it's like, okay, there it is. That's Grand Canyon. Yep. And then, and that's kind of the way I was on almost everything. It was always got to get to that next thing. Like right now, I have no idea what I'm doing tomorrow. I have an idea. I know the house I'm going to.
I don't know what you're doing tomorrow either,
but
to be
I
honest.
I don't have it thought out in my head.
Yeah.
It's okay to walk into a job and go, okay, I need to go spend an hour at Home Depot.
So you don't know if you need any of these tools?
I do not.
Yeah, absolutely don't.
These are pretty nice.
Yeah, those needle nose pliers aren't too bad, are
nice,
they?
Yeah.
Yeah, those have
Today
been used.
I needed a pair that I have them at home. I can't find them, but they go like this and then they come up.
Oh, they're the 90-degree ones?
So you can get up
yeah, those are awesome.
Something.
Yeah, my grandpa had a pair of those. I didn't inherit those because they went to my uncle, but I'm gonna. Those will be mine someday. Yeah, yeah. That's. I think that's so important, because I know when I was a lot younger, and I think part of it's energy, like how much energy you have and enthusiasm. But I think part of it is that drive to not let people down. Like you mentioned, like you kind of mentioned it, but I'm coming back to it. I'm gonna grab that again, because I think this need to perform so people aren't disappointed in me. That's a thing. That's like a real thing. But here's what I'm going to say for myself is that was not put upon me. At some point, I thought, oh, I have to do this. Even though it wasn't my parents' expectation, my coaches weren't pressuring me. It was, I wanted to be the best at the thing, whether it was playing drums when I was in high school, whether it was being catcher and playing third base. Like, I want to be the best. I want to be on varsity when I'm like super young. I want to get called up at the end of the year when you get put on JV because you're young and you're small. I want to get called up to varsity and play in the playoffs because I want to be that good. And again, that was not this knife hand father or strict mother driving that. It was like my own pursuit. But what can easily happen is you just get used to this speed that's unhealthy, and then at some point your body and your mind and your heart go, hey, this ain't working out no more.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, it was that where I was kind of forced to slow down a little bit or take a different speed, even though I do speed regularly. I speed all the time. I like getting places quickly. That's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is I've had to be more discerning about what things I'm willing to put my all into and which things I'm like, no, good enough's good enough right now.
exactly. Because I started working when I was like 13, and I never stopped until last March. I mean, I've had a job my whole, and it was always go. We lived in Phoenix. I had to buy a house, and I had to have a pool, and I had to, the kids, Casey had to have a Hot Wheel every time we went to Target, and so many things. I was like pressured. But then again, I look back and I think my mom and dad never really did pressure that much. I remember my dad saying he was disappointed in me for something one time, and the little things like that. But I never remember disappointing them, and I never disappointed your mom. So does she watch this?
So she is going to watch this. There's context here. So where Tim used to work, my mom was the director of the preschool and the private school at that church, and for 20 years she worked there. And you were always there to help with any of the maintenance needs at the school. I mean, at one point there was like 30 staff, I think, and over 300 kids enrolled. It was quite the operation. And I don't know where I don't know what happened, but somehow there's like this story that like no matter what happens, whatever Denise asks for, just make sure it gets done. And I'm not sure if it's because she just only asked when she needed things.
There were guys that I knew that, but the thing with like some of those guys was they never got anything done for anybody.
Was my mom just scary? What happened here, Tim? What's going on?
She was,
You hear that, Caitlin? Off camera, Kate. Grandma was scary at work, apparently.
She was not scary, but she was on the side of, I've got to get that done because of licensing or because of
that's the real thing.
So it was really,
sure.
And I understood that. I knew that. My sister was a director of preschool, and I knew that if that toilet wasn't working and they were down 3 toilets,
you can get shut down.
Licensing could come in and just shut you down. I couldn't.
They don't even ask.
Yeah,
you're
I
closed.
couldn't shut off the water at the downstairs. I couldn't shut the. If we had something in a fire alarm accident that went off, it was the end of the world. Because, but I tried not to put certain people ahead of other people, but I really did. I did. Not because of fear.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Well,
it's great.
Especially when it comes to, like, I have my own opinions about like how much the government is involved in certain things. But I will say, when it comes to making sure that the facilities in which kids are going to be educated, they are extremely strict and tight. And I'm okay with that. In that instance, I'm absolutely okay with that because
my whole job, and it's kind of what I'm doing now is kind of got that to it, but it was safe and clean. If there was a sidewalk and it was a little, we'd shave it down, or if there was and everything was clean, and so it was safe, and if it's clean, it's pretty safe, from different things. And so it was always, those were kind of my big things at that time. Yeah. And it was definitely for her.
Yeah. Well, I certainly appreciate that. Most people won't have the firsthand experience of being responsible for that many people and that many like children at any point in their life. And man, I got to tell you, like the requirements of the city and the state when it comes to the permitting part it will probably blow most people's minds when you see how meticulous and detailed some of these things are.
It's
crazy. And it's true. Like, the fire marshal can come through and be like, oh yeah, that's supposed to have 4 screws instead of 3.
Exactly.
And you're like, okay, what? The 3 is doing the job, but why do we need a 4th screw? Whatever, just do it. Code. It goes on the checklist. Yes. Yeah, letter of the law, as it were. So.
Yeah.
All right. So to me, from the outside looking in, you seem to thoroughly be enjoying what you're doing. Yeah. And I love that because it makes it easy to refer you because you're trustworthy. You great at what you do. You're upstanding with people. You're going to tell them, I can or cannot do this. Here's what it's going to take to do this. So there's all those things for you. But one of the things I'm really hoping that comes out of this for you specifically is that for those who have not had the chance to really kind of get to know more about Tim, that this has been interesting. That there's so much more than just the thing you fix. There's so much more behind all that, and this conversation honestly could probably go for hours. But guess what? We're already at the hour mark.
Uh-oh.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
You can.
Are you
going to
ask? Are you going to ask me any ending questions like who I would have dinner with? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to ask you both those questions.
Okay.
Can I do that? All right. So I'm going to ask you 2 questions back to back. The first one is if I give you a microphone and you're standing in an audience of 100,000 people, and you get to tell someone thank you. I know you could probably thank 100 people, but 100,000 people are listening, Tim. Who are you thanking?
Man, I would can I do multiple people? Like, I mean, just my bosses. I worked for a guy named Pat in LA. In Arizona, I worked for a guy named Don. And in here, I worked for a guy named Mike. And I would thank those people because they all were hard in a way, but they were also gentle. The guy in Phoenix, we called him Chief. He was an old Navy guy. And he was so hard. But when he walked up with you with an envelope full of cash, you were just like, okay. You know. And he always told you, he always shook your hand at the end of the day or at the end of the week or whatever. When he's handing you his paycheck, it's always, thanks. Always, always, always. And Pat in LA gave me my first shot in printing to where I really was like real. And then Mike was just great. Don't tell him I said that.
Well, you just told him. Well, the other one is dead or alive. Who would you want to share a meal with?
So I heard you ask that question one time on one of the podcasts I was watching, and the first thing came to mind was I wanted to have dinner with my grandson and as an adult, because I want to know what he's thinking right now.
Oh wow!
Because he'll grab two things like this, and he'll walk around the house going and just tapping them.
Yeah,
and it's like Power of Grayskull, but he doesn't know the Power of Grayskull. He doesn't. And I would love to sit down with him and talk about that. Like, what were you thinking if you remember when you were a year old? But the person, I mean, I would love to probably sit down with someone like Ronald Reagan. I'm conservative. I follow that. I'm a kind of a Rush Limbaugh conservative guy. So now everybody knows my political thinking. But a guy like Ronald Reagan, because of his whole life, I mean, he went from a lifeguard to a actor, to a governor, to a president. He ran the with the Actors Guild or something like that. He
Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah, he ran that, and he was governor, and then he was president. And so just that span of life, because I look at my grandfather, and he was able to tell me a lot of things. Like my grandfather, you know, he grew up before there were cars.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he was born, you know, in 1920 something. So if you had a car, you were really wealthy. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden he's on his deathbed and we're talking to him and reading the Bible from an iPhone that I could talk to somebody in Europe that easily, you know? And so for me, I would love to sit down with someone like Ronald Reagan and just say, you know, what you went from this to this.
Yeah. That's amazing.
What did life change? Because, you know, first radio, first TV, color TV.
Yeah.
First dial phone, and then you had a dial phone, and you had a phone answer machine.
Yeah.
And telephones. What's a payphone? And what's what's MapQuest? What's
oh my God, MapQuest. Jeez.
You can just go down the line of all the things. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I've seen a lot in my life.
Yeah.
The iPod.
Well, you're mentioning some of them right now.
Yeah. But just sit down with somebody and just get details of what was it like?
Super cool.
To not find out that the president was the president for like a month.
That's so crazy.
You know?
So you're the first person who's mentioned like a future one, like being able to talk to your grandson when he's an adult and ask him what he was thinking when he was one or if he was aware. You're the first person who's actually said kind of a future-paced answer. That's fascinating. Have you been to the Reagan Library?
Oh, yeah.
I was there when it opened.
Oh, wow.
Back when I was working at Pepperdine University, after school, after graduating, after finishing school, I worked at the university in the alumni department, and it was right around the same time that the Reagan Library was just getting kicked off, and we got like a private tour of it.
The plane wasn't there though.
No, well, the pieces were. It wasn't assembled. It was literally outside, like on the grounds, and it was in pieces, and it was all like covered up, so it didn't look the way it looks now. But it had been delivered. Yeah. And so we got a private tour, and it was so amazing. Yeah. I have not gone back since, just because I haven't, but it was so awesome being able to like walk around and see all this cool memorabilia he got and gifts from other people across the country or across the world. Yeah, it was amazing because, you know, at that time I was a lot younger. I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is kind of recent history, but at the same time, I didn't care as much about history as I do now. Mm-hmm. And so now I look back at it and go, wow, it was a really cool experience. It's way cooler than I thought it was at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. My wife and I, we spent, in fact, it was during my sabbatical. I think we went up there and we've traveled all over the place. It's been fun.
Yeah. It's super cool, man. Yeah. I'm so glad to have you here. I know you don't normally do this thing or you don't do this a lot.
Yeah, I'm usually behind the curtain.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say you're always doing something else. You're always doing something in support of the people that are doing this thing. But I'm so grateful for you spending the time to come by. This has been wonderful, and I hope that everyone's learned a lot of new things about you. You've very openly and candidly shared, and I sincerely appreciate that. And for anyone who is watching this and you need some handyman to help around the house, please contact him. His contact information will be down in the description box below. Also, you will find the hyperlink to come and join Tim and I at BNI Partners in Excellence any Wednesday at 7 a.m. You'll find a link there where you can register as a visitor for BNI Partners in Excellence. Again, every Wednesday we meet at 7 a.m. Open networking starts at 6:45. Members, open networking starts at 6:45. Meeting officially starts at 7. I'm just kidding. I think. You can find us online, but visit us at 4475 Bonita Road in Bonita. And Tim, thank you so much for coming on to the BNI Partners in Excellence show. It was wonderful getting to have this type of conversation with you and share it with everybody. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again with another great guest next week.